It's natural to feel that way. Happy Monday, everyone. So today is President's Day. The only federal institution open today is Bill Clinton's pants. It is his favorite holiday, of course, because he can always get a good deal on a mattress. According to the White House staffers, while visiting Donald Trump in the Oval Office, Elon Musk's 4-year-old needed a diaper change. Luckily, there was plenty left over from the previous tenant. According to the Republican National Committee, Joe Biden spent a record 577 days outside the White House, mostly because he couldn't remember where he lived. Conservative writer Ashley St. Clair announced on X that Elon Musk is the father of her child. This will be Elon's 13th kid. Turns out he can build a rocket, he just can't protect his. She said she knew Elon was the father when the baby turned his pacifier into a telescope. You know, speaking of babies, people have asked me, Greg, why haven't I posted any pictures of my baby? Well, first off, I respect my family's privacy, and I hope you do too. But since it's now a topic of discussion, I guess I can share one photo. I hear it starts to look more like me as the baby gets older. Over the weekend, Donald Trump attended the Daytona 500 and drove a lap around the track. Kamala would never have done this if she were president. She only talks in circles. A Brazilian couple, aren't they all? Has set the world record for the longest marriage, 84 years and 77 days. The husband credits their long union to one simple thing. He's deaf. It's a heartwarming tale. Finally, on Saturday, the U.S. versus Canada hockey game started off with 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. I was glad to see our hockey players stand up for America, but still, you shouldn't hit women. All right. Just joking, Canucks. So right now, the Democratic Party is about as popular as a monkeypox enema. But the Democrat implosion is actually nothing new, because it happened to the other guys 8 years ago. Remember that before destroying the Democratic Party, Donald Trump destroyed the Republican Party by making the old guard seem timid and obsolete. Paul Ryan suddenly became the political equivalent of an outhouse. It's still out there in the fields, but no one goes near it. So what Trump accomplished is really amazing. He saw both parties as the same thing and took them both down. Seriously, who else can kill a party just by showing up? Now, the current Democrat Party may not be completely dead, but it's definitely on a ventilator. And if sane Democrats still exist, they gotta wise up. They need a dose of common sense, tough love, and possibly some Ozempic. So, here's Dr. Greg ready to write the prescription. First, let's give Hitler a rest. Face it, calling everyone Hitler has been about as successful for the left as the View's swimsuit calendar. Yeah. And yet, here's CBS's Margaret Brennan arguing with Marco regarding J.D. Vance's speech on free speech, claiming the Nazis weaponized free speech to carry out the Holocaust.
He was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide.
Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none.
Nice. Weaponizing speech to conduct genocide? What does that even mean? Where did she go to school? Dumb community college? I say community because she was too stupid to get into the 4-year. Fact is, all Vance did was defend the First Amendment against those who see it as bad. And from that assertion, Marge got to Hitler. Makes me think she got that job because of her looks. And she's only a 6. Yeah. Prescription 2, lay off the hoaxes. Remember that old line, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth puts on its boots? Well, that was before we knew how fake the media was. Thanks to an enlightened public, the hoaxes now get stomped by the boots of truth before they even get out of bed. Perfect example, the hoax that Pete Hegseth was drinking scotch at a NATO presser when it was obviously water. But when you're desperate and stupid, you'll push anything. Sorry, Dems, it's you who need the intervention, not him. Thank God he wasn't drinking tomato juice, or Democrats would accuse him of being hot Dracula. Now, rather than creating hoaxes, you might want to see what you're for as opposed to against. And this is the hard part, because what is your party now? If you've lost the Nazi name-calling and the hoax matrix, what's left? And I get it, Trump's found the middle ground on all issues, and it's called common sense. It's not left or right. That structure no longer works here. Go ahead and try it. The high ground is called the high ground for a reason. There's no place to flank it. So you have to find new ground instead of taking theirs. And you can't win being the party of cutting off little kids' balls. It's an obvious point. Which means it's time to declare war on what destroyed you, meaning the woke virus that you mistook as thinking. You need to cut the cord of the activist class that so terrifies you. That means, however, they will call you names. But the new Democratic Party must realize that to exist, you can't rely on accolades. Praise doesn't build anything. You should have learned that in 2024. Support from the woke didn't increase the quality of life. It didn't make safer streets, cheaper eggs, a secure border, jobs with good wages. It ended no wars. All it did was make Rachel Levine feel like a woman and Bud Light feel like because for that victim virus to endure, it can never make things better or it stops existing. I go back to my old zombie analogy. In a zombie flick, there's so much struggle to avoid how to become a zombie when maybe it's just better to let the zombie bite you early on. Then you're on their side and they leave you alone. Meanwhile, you can work your way up the zombie ladder. That's what the Dems did with the woke. They gave in to the mind virus, all because they didn't like the hassle of having to fight it. They were scared. But of what? Thinking for themselves? But for wokeness to work, everyone has to bite, but America didn't. And now you lost everything. So now what, Dems? Are there issues that Trump missed? Can you grab them and not only make your lives better, but ours too? Or at this point, can you even find them when you're still clinging to the noxious past? You might start soon. Otherwise, it's your funeral. Let's welcome tonight's guest. Even his shadow is white. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. She's always direct and never incorrect. Editor-in-chief of the Federalist, Molly Hemingway. He's always the funniest guy in the soup kitchen. Founder of StudioTST.com, Michael Loftus. And she's got a baby on board and won't be ignored. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor, Kat Duke. Tom, I like all the layers you're wearing today. I count 16.
Oh, yes, I know. I like to layer up, Greg.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, you like to help people. I've noticed that. And you have liberal friends. Do you, if you felt that they could take your advice, what would you give them?
Well, I give it to them all the time through this show, Greg, because I know liberals and conservatives alike watch the king of late night, Greg Gutfeld.
Thank you.
But I think you are harsh on Margaret Brennan.
Really?
She knows her history. She knows the Nazis weaponized free speech.
Yes.
I'm also a student of history. You know what else the Nazis did? They tried to prevent the Von Trapp children from singing about their favorite things.
That is
They did
true.
many bad things, Greg.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, they stole the Ark of the Covenant from Indiana Jones.
Yes.
He took it back, though, and they put it in that warehouse. I hope DOGE figures that out. They got to get that. It's in that big warehouse. They tried to prevent Hogan and his buddies from digging underground and planting bombs all over Germany.
That is true.
They were up to no good, the Nazis.
Yes.
So she knew that. No, I mean, I think they, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Democrats should just embrace DOGE because, you know, like you said in your monologue, long ago, they claimed that they wanted to cut down on government waste. So if they just embrace DOGE and they say, well, that's not the problem we have with Trump. But everybody knows if you cut government waste, you're going to be the hero.
Yeah.
So they should stop trying to fight it. They should say, look, we don't really like Trump. We don't really like Elon Musk. But if they find anything, God bless them.
Yeah. You know, Molly, you were tweeting a lot about the Brennan Rubio interview. And I believe now when you hear the word weaponization, it means that they don't really know what they're saying. Like, it's like that word always carries the weight of the sentence. And she struck me as thoroughly checked out of the building at that point.
Well, it is rare to see that combination of condescension and arrogance and just complete idiocy.
Yeah.
It doesn't really go together very well. But, you know, you give this speech on free speech and the importance of religious liberty and freedom and listening to your voters, and you think, who could really be against this? And in comes Margaret Brennan to be like, I'm against that. Those are bad things. And many other people in the media are doing it as well. And it's just like, no one in history has been on the side of good if they were suppressing speech.
Yeah.
And yet that's what they're going all in on.
You know what kills me is J.D. Vance did 2 speeches in like a week that were great. That one and the AI speech. And it makes you think about, like, Kamala, 4 years she didn't give 2 speeches that were any good, you know? You don't have to applaud. It was just me coming to that realization very slowly. And I will admit, it was kind of boring at that point. I was actually bored making that, like, thought. Loftus, you depend on the kindness of strangers when you're living on the streets.
Yes.
Can you return the favor to our fellow Democrats? Because it seems to me they don't have a path until somebody gives it to them.
They don't. They've experimented with a couple of different ways of pushing back against DOGE. They're like, I don't think Elon Musk and his boys are good at math. I'm worried about the math. Yeah, he catches rockets with chopsticks, so shut up about the math. They're like, oh, he might have your social security number. I don't know. He ran PayPal. Okay, so they really have to do the Casablanca thing where they have to be like, we're shocked that there's government overspending. Oh my goodness! That way then they get in on it. Like I declare, we should start a committee of our own just to check his numbers and make sure. Maybe my sister-in-law could be on that committee, and that normally pays $2 million a year, but. I can't get enough DOGE. I want a DOGE 24-hour channel. DOGE it all. Pinch every penny.
Kat, good to see you as always. You're a trooper. I realize that you as a libertarian, me basically Republican libertarian, we're used to abuse, so we don't care what people think. I think Democrats have a real problem with praise. They need it. And so that's why they could never turn away the woke, because they were so dependent on being liked by them. Is that a good theory, a bad theory, or just... No, that's a good theory.
Well, I really want to talk about the free speech thing, because
Sure.
there's a huge misconception right now that makes no sense to me about what free speech is and who it's for. In recent years, there's been this misunderstanding that somehow free speech is a tool of the powerful.
Yeah.
But that's backwards. It's a tool against the powerful. Marginalized people throughout history have understood this. Social justice leaders throughout history have understood this. Whether you're talking about Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, have understood that unpopular ideas or people who are oppressed are the ones that need free speech to be able to speak out against the powerful. And the way that people talk about that, they've completely lost sight of that. It's completely backwards, and it's almost as stupid as thinking that there was free speech in Nazi Germany.
Yes.
But it's also maybe why they're having trouble. Like you were saying that common sense is what the Trump is doing. He picks these issues where 80% of people agree. But because of censorship, that 20% has been elevated. And people think that's like a much bigger opinion than people have. Because of their suppression and free speech, they've now written themselves out of power.
Yeah, and also, I'm trying to think of any issue that Trump hasn't, or it's like I said this on the 5, that it's like showing up at Walmart on Saturday after Black Friday. Trump's picked through everything, you know, and like every single issue, he has gotten there and gotten right in the middle, and you show up and you go like, well, on gender, he kind of did the right thing. On the border, he kind of did. And you're like going like, well, I'm trying to think, what is the new issue? It might be AI in the future, something like that, but I can't see it.
And he got all the easy ones too, like the penny.
Yes.
Like, they could have gotten rid of the penny when I was a kid.
Plastic straws.
Yes, exactly.
Plastic straws, pennies, dudes in locker rooms for women. These are all like no-brainers. Up next, fans of the Maple Leaf are causing us grief.